Okay, so what do you think about the game?
I think I played really well because I'm really good.
And do you have any other questions?
Yes, I was wondering why my heart beats faster when I run because I'm not so good at science.
Well, that is an interesting question. Why does your heart beat faster when you run or when you see the one that you love? Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore do Romeo?
Hello everybody! Today we're gonna talk about fascinating things and you will learn many interesting and surprising facts about you. Isn't it exciting? Well, first of all, we need to understand what we're actually made of.
So, our body is composed of billions of tiny living things that we call cells. Now, cells are fascinating and we could talk about them for hours, but it's not the topic today. So, like every living being, cells need stuff to live. So, nutrients and oxygen. And how do they get all of that? Well, all of that is transported in blood. Now, blood is also very interesting. Let's look a bit closer at its composition. So, a large part of blood is plasma. It is a substance in which other materials flow, such as white blood cells that fight against infections, or platelets that fill in the hole when you hurt yourself. Blood also contains nutrients, hormones, and more importantly, red cells. So, red cells act like red buses. They transport oxygen from the lungs to different cells, and they take the CO2 and waste to the lungs to be expired. Have more than 5 million red cells per millimeter cube of blood, and more than 10 million white cells per liter of blood. All of that flows in what we call the circulatory systems, sort of tubes called arteries and smaller ones called veins. Your circulatory system is so big that if we put every vein and arteria to form a unique tube, it would turn around the earth several times. How does all of that work? In order for blood to flow, we need something to give it a push, a pump, and when your body needs more oxygen, for example when you run, this pump works faster. And that is where an essential and fascinating organ of our body comes in.
The heart.
So now, how does it work? Well, the heart is composed of 4 chambers. 2 upper chambers called the atria and 2 lower ones called the ventricles. These are separated by valves. We also have 2 main pipes, the aorta and the pulmonary trunk, and the papillary muscles that contract. Something surprising is we actually have 2 hearts, the right one and the left one, and both work totally independently from the other. So everything starts when the old blood gets into the heart by the right atrium. Then the tricuspid valve opens. It is called tricuspid because it is separated into 3 parts. The blood then gets into the right ventricle. The muscles of the ventricle contract to send blood to the lungs. Now, it would be tempting to think of our lungs as 2 big balloons of air, but they're actually a bit more complicated. In our lungs, we have millions of tiny balloons of air that we call alveoli. And when red cells get close enough to an alveoli, they get the oxygen from it by the process called diffusion. They also give out the CO2 that they have collected from the cells to be expired. Then, the blood, which is now rich in oxygen, gets back to the heart, this time in the left atrium. The bicuspid valve opens, it gets into the left ventricle, the muscles contract, and the blood is sent all around the body. So it gets into the arteria all around the body, and then by the veins back to the heart when it has no more oxygen to give, and it has received CO2 from the cells, and now the cycle is complete, it can start again. But how does the heart beat? Well, the first boom corresponds to the tricuspid and bicuspid valves closing. The second one corresponds to the valves in the aorta and the pulmonary trunk closing. Now the cells of the heart are beating naturally. For example, if you put heart cells in a box and let them multiply for a while, one day they start beating. Isn't it magical? But the problem is they're not beating regularly. They're just doing what they want. So to synchronize everything, we need a device. This is the sinoastrial node. So the sinoastrial node sends electrical impulses to different cardiac cells which are sensitive to electricity when they need to beat. Now a device exists to measure those waves. It is called an ECG or electrocardiogram. So electro for electricity, cardio for the heart, and gram for visualizing. So an ECG visualizes the electric waves from your heart. So this is a typical ECG graph. In order to detect eventual health problems, doctors need to understand what this graph means. So this first wave here corresponds to the state when the atria are full of blood. They then contract to send blood to the ventricles. This very big wave out there corresponds to a very big electrization of all the cardiac cells. Then this segment here and this wave correspond to the ventricles contracting and sending blood to the aorta and all the organs of the body. So in this video we will try to build an ECG to measure the cardiac impulses. To do that we're gonna use our good old friend Arduino. Just like in my last video on wind when we built an anemometer. So an Arduino card is like a mini computer. It is a very powerful calculator and it can do many things, but we'll have to program it in Java. So we will also need another card, which is this red thing on top that is called a shield, and 3 electrodes. So we put 2 electrodes at the wrists and 1 at the ankle. One is positively charged, the second one is negatively charged, and the third one is neutral. So the program is here. So the signal from the electrodes is sent to the shield. So then the shield will amplify the signal and reduce the perturbations. And it will then send it to the Arduino card, which will calculate the difference between the signals to do it as kind of waves. So let's see what we get. And you can see we get a bunch of numbers and letters with no point. So we will have to translate it into a graph using a library that we call Electric Guru. It's just here and translates into a graph. Hey, are you alright? Let's check your heart. Well, it seems you can go to play again. Go!
Now thank you very much to have watched this video and don't forget to like. See you soon for another scientific trip.